America.
What do you see?
A land that, defined nationally, separates us by borders.
Defined geographically, it connects us by one single landmass.
What is America?
Who is an American?
That's a good question. What does being an American mean to me?
Americano es como estar en un equipo.
To be an American is to be a part of a lot of different cultures and a lot of different things.
No hay una definición como, hey, tú eres de acá, tú eres de allá. Todos somos americanos.
We wanted to travel the Pacific coast, searching for waves to surf and rocks to climb.
We wanted to see old friends and make new ones and bring back their stories as well as our own.
Americano, es un continente nomás.
I call myself an American because that's what I am. I mean, what am I going to say?
Yo nací en América, nací en Panamá. Panamá es parte de América.
America.
Beauty.
Looking at America not as a nation, but as a people, we set out on a journey from Alaska to Argentina in search of a land without borders and a good adventure.
The whole idea of this road, just going for, you look at a map and I mean, it's 10,000 miles down there, you know? It's really exciting.
My name is Zack Hill. I'm from Northern California and I work with kids. When I'm not working, I spend my time making art and surfing.
My name's Scott Cherry. I'm originally from Northern California and now I live in New Mexico. I'm a carpenter and a photographer, but what I like to do most is get outside and go rock climbing.
Scott and I met in high school. He had this little green Volkswagen Bug with no headlights that we were always piling into.
We first started driving south to Santa Cruz for the day. Zach was 14 and I had just got my driver's license. He was always wanting to search the coast for waves, and I was always saying, let's go.
In 1999, we followed the Pan American Highway to Costa Rica, exploring the coast of Central America. On our way back, with the anxiety that our trip was ending, we came up with this thought. Let's drive from Alaska to Argentina and check out the entire Pacific coast.
Oh yeah, Alaska to Argentina? How fun would that be?
I've probably spent more time on the road with Scott than any other person in the world, and looking at being crammed in the car with someone for 8 months is a little frightening.
It's a tremendous amount of time to be stuck with anyone. Things can get a little crazy, but we always seem to have a good time.
This is a story about two friends and a 20,000-mile road trip, but more importantly, it's the stories of the people we met from one end of the world to the other, making their lives in this great land called America.
We decided to start our trip on the island of Unalaska in the Aleutian chain, which begins the coastline we intended to traverse to the island of Tierra del Fuego.
Sitting on a plane heading thousands of miles in the opposite direction of our final destination, it was hard to visualize the outcome of what we set out to accomplish. It became more clear as the plane descended into Dutch Harbor, and we got our first sight of the Aleutian Islands and the beginning of our story.
Welcome to Dutch Harbor. The time is 4:24. For your continued safety, please remain seated until we come to our final stop. Please watch your step going down the stairs, and if you would, please walk around the wings and ascend to the terminal.
On the surface, Dutch Harbor is a lonely place, far from everywhere, an industrial outpost surrounded by raw wilderness that looks like a giant golf course. It's also the biggest fishing port in the United States.
We picked out Dutch Harbor on a map, hoping to find surf, but with little idea of what to expect. Standing there on the street with our luggage, we felt a bit lost. And then up walked Sam Valenti, who turned out to be Dutch Harbor's lone surfer.
So here you are, it's Dutch Harbor. It's about halfway out the Aleutian chain, and occasionally some swells do hit, but that's more wintertime.
2 minutes with Sam, and we realized we should have been here 6 months ago, and that surfing probably wasn't going to be on the agenda. But he showed us around town and gave us some insight on the life as a fisherman in Dutch Harbor, Unalaska.
My name's Sam Valenti. I was born in New York, Rochester, New York, and I grew up mostly in Southern California. In my mid-20s, I left there to kind of do some traveling around, as I say, one last stab at childhood. Finally wound up here in Alaska, which is what I call home now. I live on a boat, and I spend 8 months a year up here fishing. What I like to do more than anything is surf, and to see good surf, and to be in it. But I'm like everybody. I mean, seeing people you haven't seen for a long time. Hey, how's it going, man? All right. To me, the American dream and the very essence of what I consider an American is a person whose goal in life is quite simply just to make their children's life better than theirs was. And I use the example of all the immigrants that come here and these immigrants that make America the great place that it is. I mean, anybody that's pursuing that is, I would say, is a great American.
While Sam works here to support a life somewhere else, mother and daughter Sharon Livingston and Larissa Syverson represent a culture that has lived on these islands for thousands of years.
Even though I lived in the States for 20 years, it was like I was always sitting on top of a picket fence. And it was just so relaxing to finally come home.
Actions definitely speak louder than words in this time we're in. It's a weird time to be alive. It's an exciting time to be alive. A lot of people are forgetting their past, and I don't want the elders to think that I'm forgetting.
We have this thing in our culture. When you're little, you are assigned an acha, and an acha is kind of like your best friend, and it's usually an older person. The older person is taking care of the younger person and watching over that younger person when they're younger and helping them learn things they need to know to live a good life.
When you make a friend here, it's a friend for life, no matter what.
Our time here had ended. We boarded a ferry that would take us down the Alaska Marine Highway to Kodiak Island, and then on to Homer and the mainland.
Good morning. How are you?
I'd been looking forward to riding the ferry, envisioning a relaxing scenic cruise through the Aleutian Islands, whale watching, checking out the birds, and just kicking back for the ride. But it's been more like 5 days trapped on a public bus. The only saving grace? Free coffee.
I'm 7 and I'm Paige.
You're Paige? What page are you on?
7.
Where do you live?
Anchorage.
What are you doing on this boat?
Going to Anchorage.
We're in Anchorage. Got in at 2:30 at night from Kodiak.
What's your name?
Tim Scheffler.
And where are you from?
Kodiak.
Kodiak, where?
Alaska. My name's Kalani. I'm from K-Town, dog.
On your marks, get set, go. Oh, you all right?
Yes.
Now we're getting ready to hitchhike out to Wasilla. Here we go. Yes, sir.
My name's Cynthia Krause. My middle name's Louise. I live in Anchorage right now, so I just kind of felt like taking a road trip.
Where are we going?
We're going to the State Fair in Wasilla with Cynthia.
This one's 3.5 pounds, it's solid steel, so it won't flex on you. But look at the angles you're getting ready to sand. Those are the exact same angles that just made that cut. Same table, same miter gauge. That's called perfect duplication.
Hit it, hit it.
A few years ago, a good friend of mine, Daniel Parks, moved to Alaska to raise a family and seek out adventure in a more wild place. Daniel is an amazing rock climber, father, and all-around wild man, as well as an inspiration for his courageous spirit. He's someone truly following his passions and living his dreams. It's always fun being around Daniel. He's up for anything.
My name is Daniel Parks, and I try and be as nice to everybody I meet as I can. I was on El Capitan once, and looking down into the valley floor, you see these 200-foot tall ponderosas sticking up, and I looked long enough that all of a sudden the valley floor was a wall like that, and I was on the floor. So the river was flowing on the wall and the trees were sticking out like texture. That was amazing.
September in Alaska means a lot of rain and good water levels in the creeks, which hold huge rainbow trout. Like Daniel says, it's raining, let's go fishing.
You ain't working anymore. Could be. There's your hole out in the sun, where you left a row half done. You claim that hoeing ain't no fun. But I can prove it. You ain't got no ambition. Gone fishing by a shady, wady pool. Shangri-La, really la. I'm wishing I could be that.
It was time to get going, and with nothing but our thumbs to get us there, we needed a vehicle. Scott, after noticing Daniel's infatuation with our Yakima bike trailer, struck a deal.
Sweet. You like that thing, huh? You want to trade?
You serious? There's your keys and title.
Oh, thanks. Think this thing will make it to Argentina?
Yeah, I think it really will.
Scott and I were owners of a 1982 Toyota Land Cruiser, 203,000 miles on the engine, 11 miles to the gallon, ready to go to Canada.
Alaska showed me an America with hope for wild places, but heading south, I couldn't help but wonder, what happens when we run out of north?
Fall colors were beginning to show signs of a long winter coming, reminding us of our lengthy journey ahead. Still 6 days of driving dirt roads from our next stop in Vancouver, Scott knew he was in for the long haul with endless days of driving and Zach's terrible Mexican music. Orale! Every other country I'd visited, I'd always felt so obviously American. Yet here in Canada, no one looked different or talked different, but I knew they were all Canadians. I just couldn't stop wondering if they knew I wasn't.
In Vancouver, we met up with Jordan Wright, a talented young athlete pursuing a career climbing rocks and dropping blocks. Here, Jordan talks about what it means to follow your passions. I have a question for you. We're looking for a pro athlete that lives in North Vancouver. His name's Jordan Wright. You know him? He's a rock climber.
No, I don't. Sorry.
Okay. We just thought we might be able to find him here at the tanning place.
My name is Jordan Wright. I'm 22 and I'm from North Vancouver, British Columbia. I enjoy doing stuff that challenges me physically and mentally. I think that if you're only doing something for the physical aspect, you're missing half of what it's worth. The things that I think about when I'm doing something that I've never done before that are really pushing me mentally and physically is just that I have the skills. It's more getting over my mental barriers than it is physical, because I can hold on to the smallest holds if I want to. It's not a matter of getting stronger or anything, it's just my mental state. My advice for any young athlete, or anyone for that matter, is just to keep at it. And when it gets hard, that's when you gotta put in the time and get it done. The thing that's cool about the sports that I'm involved in is that for a baseball player, I guess the end is winning the World Series, or for football players, the Super Bowl. Well, in the sports I'm involved with, there is nothing to say that that's the greatest goal. They're all up to you.
"5 days on Jordan's living room floor was enough, so we crossed the Georgia Strait to Vancouver Island in the coastal town of Tofino, where we hooked up with a surfer named Peter DeVries, who despite freezing water and snowy winters is making a career out of surfing in Canada.
My name is Peter DeVries. I am 20 years old and I live in Tofino, British Columbia, Canada. Life in Tofino is pretty mellow. It's become more of a tourist town in the past 5 to 10 years. It was more logging and fishing before then. So the summertime's really busy, and then wintertime it's really quiet, rains a lot, and it gets cold. A typical day for me, I'd wake up, walk up onto the rocks, look at the surf. The waves are good, surf for 5-6 hours a day. I've always been into all kinds of sports, basketball, hockey, snowboarding, skateboarding, but surfing is at the top of the list right now. It's a sport that consumes your life. People who surf, that's what they do, that's what they love. I love watching people surf, watching different styles, different surfers. It's definitely an art form. Being a Canadian means definitely a lot of freedom. It means you gotta like hockey. I've heard good things about Canadians from every country I travel to. We're a kind of a passive country, I think, and passive people. Happiness, to me, is doing what you love to do. If you love your work, that's great, but if you don't, then you gotta have other stuff in your life, and I definitely have that right now. I don't work too much, and I love what I'm doing. That's happiness to me.
Tofino seems to bring out the full potential in people, as we saw in another motivated surfer who moved here to make her life in and around the ocean.
My name is Dawn Battenchuk. I guess I'm a bit of a go-getter. If I hear about a cool spot, I want to check it out. I've traveled and I've seen poverty and I've seen people struggling, and in that I've seen a lot of spirit and a lot of life. And what makes me sad sometimes is how we live here and we have it so good, and I see people almost more unhappy than those that have so little. Happiness is doing what you love and doing what you want to do, appreciating what you have, and I don't know, do we ever find it? I hope so. Surfing makes me feel alive. It makes me strong and makes me kind of aggressive and want to go out there and try really hard, and gets the adrenaline going and gets you pumped on life and stoked. And it sort of changed my life. It's gotten me to all kinds of places in the world, and it's going to take me further, you know? So surfing's my inspiration in a lot of ways, I think, for sure.
Crossing the border into the Olympic Peninsula of Washington, the sunny weather we had in Tofino turned to rain, and things got really quiet. The northern coast is beautiful, but somewhat inhospitable. It feels a little protected and sacred. No one is going to make you a map to their hidden treasures, that's for sure.
The Oregon coast is a mecca for skate parks. They're community-built and great outlets for the area's youth.
My name's Nathan Tripp, and I just skate to have fun and try to bust out.
Each town we passed through brought an uncomfortable feeling of returning to civilization. It's hard to re-enter society after being happily lost in the woods. I've always had a lot of respect for the Pacific Northwest. It's the kind of place you need years to explore, not just 10 days.
Hungry and out of food, we went directly to Cliff Bar in Berkeley. Everyone in the Bay Area seems to be into something interesting beyond their day job. The receptionist at Cliff Bar taught dance at a community youth group in San Francisco. She invited us to come check it out.
Hi, my name is Issa Joaquin.
Do you guys have any plans for a Cliff Bar with meat in it?
Listen to your mother. It's true. What I've been doing for the past 15 years is dance. What hurts me the most is dance. What brings me the most joy is dance. And I find my passion has shifted from performance and dance to teaching, and I'm learning how to express what I do by giving it to somebody else.
I like to dance. I have rhythm, but not a lot of people have it, but they'll learn it if they come to class.
I see youth having a voice. They speak up. They're teaching. They're saying no, or they're saying yes. Our youth group that I work with play at most anti-war rallies.
Loco Bloco is a community-based organization for youth. We drum and dance and do a lot of arts and performances.
Being part of Loco Bloco is like a vessel of life.
Okay, we're actually headed north now. We decided to stop in Ventura at the Patagonia store so I could buy a surfboard. happened to meet Yvonne Chenard.
Well, you guys are real professionals.
Yvonne Chenard revolutionized the sport of rock climbing in the 60s and 70s and is revolutionizing environmentalism as we speak. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Yvonne, he's the owner of Patagonia and a huge friend to our planet.
Well, I'm Yvonne Chenard, and I live in Ventura, California. I don't know what it was that brought me to surfing, but I really like the ocean. I like oceans and mountains. It's a good balance, I think. You know, I really believe that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So the more you can stuff yourself into really tough situations and battle your way out, the better off you're going to be.
2:30 a.m. Yvonne leads the first pitch.
The mountains are very silent and ominous this early in the morning. You have a lot of fear because fear of the dark, for one thing, and fear of sticking your neck out. Anyway, early in the morning, there's just no brave men early in the morning. I first became aware of environmental problems and got involved, I think it was around 1970. My wife and I went to a surf movie, and a young guy got up and told everybody the city's thinking of channelizing the Ventura River. Strictly as a self-interest, all the surfers went to the city council meeting, and we listened to one paid scientist after another saying the Ventura River was a dead river and there's no reason why they shouldn't channel it. One of the last speakers, this young guy, his name is Mark Capelli. On one of his last slides, he showed photos of these little steelhead smolts. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's no longer a dead river. All these scientists were absolutely wrong, and we defeated channelizing the thing. That's how things get done. You know, you start locally, and then you slowly branch out, and you get a kind of a world view. And you get a world view by traveling and seeing the world and seeing what all the problems are. You know, I think a lot of people are feeling helpless right now, and they don't feel like they can affect change. They don't realize all the gains that we've made as a society have been done by individuals, not by the government, not by groups, not by clubs, not by organizations, not by religions, not by corporations. It's been done by individuals. The most important thing in life, just to be happy, I think. I mean, if you're not happy, you're miserable. That's no good.
Yvonne has always been one of my climbing heroes and continues to be for his environmental activism. Pretty cool to actually spend some time getting to know him.
All right. We're going to Mexico.
It feels good crossing the border knowing that we won't be back home for at least another 6 months. In San Diego, we pick up an old friend named Dominique who wants to go surfing and do some camping in the desert.
This was my first time traveling in Baja, and I was really looking forward to being there. It was nice to leave the urban mayhem of SoCal and get into the desert, just eating tacos, surfing, climbing rocks, basically unplugging from society. Baja has almost a lunar feel. The highway splits these immense boulder fields, surrounded by cacti and dismembered automobiles.
We headed to La Paz to catch a ferry that would bring us to the mainland, where we would pick up the Pan American Highway southbound.
One of our days waiting for the ferry in La Paz, we saw these kids skating a rickety assortment of metal ramps in the plaza downtown. We stopped and filmed and made friends and ended up spending the remainder of our time hanging out with them.
Mi nombre es José Cristian Iván Ramírez y me gusta el skate porque me motiva, me pone alegre y pierdo el tiempo así.
The skate session ended and the party began.
¡Viva México! ¡Viva México! Va a tomar mi amigo aquí, me va a tomar un trago bueno. Salud, salud, salud.
After an 18-hour ferry ride from La Paz to Mazatlan, we found ourselves cruising through the heat and humidity of mainland Mexico, remembering the familiarities that make this country so unique and so beautiful. Walking through the famous surfing town of Puerto Escondido one evening, we found this tiny art studio backed into an alley. Surreal paintings covered the walls and drew us in, eventually introducing us to the painter. Meet René Villalobos.
Yo me llamo René Camargo Villalobos, soy originario de la Ciudad de México, pero vivo en Puerto Escondido, Oaxaca. La vida en Puerto Escondido me gusta porque es mucho más tranquila que la ciudad. La ciudad me gusta mucho, pero aquí se vive más. Yo tengo que trabajar para poder sostener mi pintura. Soy cantinero, entonces mi día empieza en la noche, no en el día. Me levanto como a las 7 de la noche, trabajo hasta las 3 de la mañana, duermo y entonces me dedico a pintar y a todos los proyectos que tenemos con el grupo.
Nosotros acá en la galería damos clases a jóvenes. La idea es que meterles a los jóvenes que ellos pueden hacer mejores cosas que andar en las calles, que andar haciendo cosas que no deben.
Somos 7 artistas que estamos trabajando en activo. Tenemos como objetivo desarrollarnos nosotros como artistas y colaborar con nuestra comunidad para mejorar la cultura y la vida de la gente a través del arte.
Yo me llamo Alex, tengo 16 años. Prefiero más el arte que estar vagando en las calles, estar rayando paredes. Prefiero expresar el arte mediante el dibujo.
Una amiga mía dice que todos cargamos con un saco lleno de cosas de la infancia, problemas, traumas, tristezas. Y particularmente en mi caso, es grande el saco, ¿no? Y entonces eso me hace pintar. Me tengo que expresar, me tengo que confesar a través de mi pintura. En mi pintura está presente mucho la idea de la muerte, de la tristeza, de lo que falta, de lo que no está. Yo creo que el artista no sabe vivir. Cuando hay cosas interiores o exteriores que no le permiten disfrutar la vida al 100%, es como balancear eso, utilizar el arte para balancear lo que no sabe vivir. Si yo supiera vivir, de reírme, de enojarme, de pelear, en el momento en que yo quiero, no pintaría. Si yo supiera vivir, no pintaría.
The stretch between Oaxaca and Chiapas quickly changes from lush jungle to windswept desert. Towns come and go less frequently, and time once again seems to move slower. Leaving Mexico means leaving North America as we cross into Guatemala and the beginning of Central America.
Crossing borders in Central America is a mess. Local kids surround your car looking to charge you money to help you get through. You got fake police telling you went the wrong way and you have to pay a fine. Everyone tries to get something out of you. Money changers, border officials, it sucks. But eventually, you make it.
We're in Guatemala. We made it.
The first town we came to was having a huge Christmas parade with Coca-Cola trucks blasting Christmas carols, carrying around Santa Clauses covered in fake snow.
I don't really think these guys knew exactly what they were doing. They were reading the instructions on the box, and there were fireworks going off into the crowd. The next morning, they were up and at it again, dancing around in superhero outfits.
At the hotel we were staying at, there was a traveling family of musicians from Mexico. Scott was practicing his Spanish with the cute percussionist until her dad showed up and asked us very nicely to come see their show that night.
¿Por dónde están los amigos de Estados Unidos? Queremos verlos, unos amigos que encontramos y que les dijimos que vinieran aquí para escuchar palabra de Dios.
Where are we now?
We're in Guatemala. I can't remember the name of the town, but we are at a rally for Jesus Christ. So we're rallying away. And yeah, it's not bad. Leaving Grupo Canan, we headed up into the mountains where we found coffee.
And this is a coffee plantation where they grow the bean, and we're just chilling, checking it out. It's pretty cool.
And also a more indigenous Mayan culture. It becomes apparent that we are no longer in coastal Mexico as people dress differently, talk differently, and colors grow more vibrant in the local style.
As we continued driving, we couldn't help but notice the colorful buses that dominated the roads. So in Antigua, we searched out the artists who make public transportation into moving masterpieces.
They take these completely destroyed school buses from the States and restore them from the ground up, customizing everything from the paint job to the rebuilt diesel engine.
Aquí reparamos los buses, vienen destruidos así, todos deshechos como este que miramos aquí.
Hay
gente que viene de diferentes lugares y nos han contado que no lo hacen en otro lado. Nosotros nos gusta hacer ese trabajo, llevamos años, desde pequeños lo hacemos hasta ahora que soy propietario de este taller, ¿verdad?
The artistic representation is somewhat reminiscent of graffiti that you would see on a train in New York. These buses are beautiful, and gracias a Dios, we are not riding them to our next stop in El Salvador.
What's going on? We are in El Salvador. We just spent 4+ hours at the border. We made it, we're here. Almost, we gotta go through the gate.
Apparently we didn't have the right paperwork photocopied, so Zach has just gone to make some copies and he has just returned.
We gotta go over to the police. And he says, maybe I'll be there, but he has to look at the car.
Cool.
Buenas noches. Buenas. Hay dos carreteras aquí, ¿sí? Dos carreteras, ¿sí? Una para La Libertad, allá. You can see one side. Okay. See? Airport. Okay.
Go for the airport. Okay.
Only way. Okay. Cool. We are now in El Salvador.
El Salvador is an amazing country with amazing people, despite its tiny size. There's a different vibe here, a heavier vibe, a bit harsh or gruff. People look you in the eye and aren't afraid to stare. It's an intimidating place, but underneath, Salvadorians are warm and welcoming people.
1991 saw the end to a bloody civil war whose scars are still evident on the landscape as well as the populace. Ask any Salvadoreño over 20 about the war and be prepared to sit down and listen.
On my first trip there in 1997, I met a young Salvadoreño by the name of Christian, who lived on his mother's land in El Zonte, making his life from the ocean. Every year I went back, he was still there, along with a new addition to his family. First his dog Rocky, then his adopted son Wilfredo, and finally his second son, Cesar. What always struck me about Teco was his ability to maintain his relaxed and positive attitude. Just hanging out with him makes me try and think more before I speak, talk slower, as well as being grateful for the opportunities that I've had, especially travel. A man of few words, here Teco lets a few fly about his life in El Salvador.
Hola, mi nombre es Cristian Martínez. La vida aquí es un poco duro, un poco suave. Si tú te lo complicas, es muy duro, pero si tú buscas la manera ahí, lo puedes hacer fácil. Un día normal para mí es como, me levanto a las 5 o 6 de la mañana. Lo primero que hago es ver el mar, man. Si veo que las olas están buenas, entro. Si no, lo que hago es un poco de trabajo, man. Venir acá, ver qué pasa ahí con mi mamá y ayudarle en lo necesario.
Este se llama chitmu, pez al día, bueno para comerlo.
El sur es como una adicción para mí, es algo que viene dentro de mi corazón. Es un deporte que yo conocí y para mí no hay otro deporte, es lo máximo. Cuando yo empecé tenía como más o menos 12 años. Yo empecé, digamos, en una tabla de madera, como una mesa, un banco. Después vino un hombre, un americano, y me dice, hey, me gusta tu tabla. Yo dije, ok, un regalo para ti, man. 2 meses más tarde, él viene y me trae una tabla. Bueno, yo estaba como muy feliz, man. Y de ahí para allá ya empecé con todo, man. Es algo bonito, man. Bueno, de acá nunca he salido, nunca he hecho un viaje largo, man. Pero de decir que voy a salir a otro país, casi no mucho me gusta. En algunos extranjeros aquí son muy amables, pero allá no sé cómo van a ser conmigo. Entonces ese es el temor. Por eso a veces no he hecho un viaje así. Pero quién sabe, un día tengo la oportunidad de salir. Ojalá tenga suerte. En el mundo lo que estamos viendo es que hay mucha gente que están destruyendo, por ejemplo, lo que es la naturaleza, que están destruyendo árboles grandes, están quemando la tierra, que por eso se dan los temblores, porque tanto fuego la tierra tiene que sentir. Te ponen a ti un fuego en la espalda y tú te mueves. Claro, la tierra me ponen fuego en todo el pasto, tienen que sentir. El futuro de El Salvador, ¿qué pienso? Bueno, vienen 2 opciones. Si educamos bien a nuestros hijos, podemos tener un buen futuro. Pero si no les damos buena educación, no vamos a tener un buen futuro. Tanto como a los nenes, como a los ancianos, hay que respetarlos. Tú respetas a ellos, te estás respetando a ti mismo, man.
Here's Teco surfing his home break right in front of his mom's restaurant. As you can see, Teco shreds on a longboard as well as a shortboard, something to say for someone who learned to surf on a wood plank. Oops. This is Teco's son Wilfredo, who was about 7 and just getting started surfing. He was still a bit small to go for it alone, so Teco would take him out and push him into the waves. This is Will's very first successfully ridden wave on a surfboard. Here Teco grabs the wave of the day, 3-footer, 2-bride. Stoked. We cross the border into Honduras high up in the mountains, where the climate is cooler and the jungle is dense. Headed for the village of Copan, we set out to see the ruins of what used to be the center of Mayan culture and prosperity, but now is one of the poorest regions in Central America.
Like others, we came to see the ruins, but couldn't help but notice the overwhelming poverty, which is evident everywhere you look.
By total chance, we met a woman who came to Copan as a tourist, but stayed on as an aid worker, dedicating her life to the need she saw to help the local children, who are the future of Honduras.
My name is Karen Steen. I'm 34 years old. I'm living here in Copan Ruinas, Honduras. It's very famous for its Maya ruins. Hundreds of thousands of tourists come by a year. But at the same time, this is one of the poorest departments in the whole country. And you only have to walk for about a mile to see the indigenous Maya Churchi living in circumstances that are really, really poor. About 4 children of each 100 die still here before they are a year old. Unfortunately, most tourists don't see that, but it makes it really interesting, the combination of the sacred place that it used to be for the Mayas, the tourist place that it is now, the Maya culture that's still alive. That really makes it something very special, yeah. Here in Copan Ruinas, I started about 5 years ago a foundation called Copan Pinta. We started with art classes first for the kids in town. Right now I'm organizing for the 3rd year in a row a children's congress. The goal of it is to stimulate children to take their own decisions and to show them that they actually can make a little difference in the world. And that they don't necessarily have to listen to the adults that shrug their shoulders and just say, yo no fui, like they say here, you know, and I don't care, it wasn't me. What we did for the Children's Congress, I wrote a manual with 10 workshops, and one of the assignments in the manual is to pick a tree that you like for whatever reason, give it a name, and write a story about that tree. As soon as you give a name to a tree, it becomes yours, and something that's yours, you won't destroy. And especially if you take the effort actually to make a drawing of the tree and to write a story about it, then it becomes part of your own environment that naturally you tend to protect. I think life itself is my biggest passion, and it's what I like so much about living here. Somehow everything is so much more intense. The colors, the smells. In Holland, death is like very far away. Here it's right on your doorstep. What I truly, truly love is teaching the children. I really find it a challenge to teach something, some issues in a way that the children really, really get it. Children are actually very happy and eager to learn as long as it's just not boring or unnecessary. And I see the development of my students becoming stable young people, people that can think for themselves and are more compassionate about what they're doing. But that's a very positive thing, to be able to make a difference.
Driving to Nicaragua Christmas Eve, I was thinking about home when suddenly a car flew by. 5 minutes down the road, we passed the same car, which had just gone head-on into oncoming traffic.
We're in Nicaragua. Merry Christmas. We made it.
Nicaragua has changed over the last 3 years since our previous trip. Land is being bought and sold and developed at a high rate. And for the most part, the locals, aside from being used as cheap labor, are being left in the dust. A mere 12 years out of a civil war that was started over land rights, Nicaraguan land is once again being hoarded, but this time by foreigners.
On Christmas night, we went to find an old friend in Masachapa, and the whole town was going nuts. He didn't even flinch when he opened his door, as if it was yesterday that I'd seen him last. He took us in, gave us a place to stay and food to eat. Here, Luis, el pájaro loco, talks about life in Nicaragua.
Mi nombre es Luis Espinosa Mayorga.
En Mazachapa la vida es un poco tranquila, no hay demasiada violencia como en otros lados como Managua o las ciudades, las un poquito grandes ciudades de Nicaragua. La economía está basada en lo que es la pesca. Digamos que si la pesca está bueno toda la economía en Mazachapa. Una de mis metas que yo tengo ahora es tratar de que mi hija trate de ir hasta la universidad y ella sea una profesional para que ella no tenga tantas necesidades como yo la tuve, pues. Hay niños que están trabajando para poder comer. En esos niños que andan trabajando en las calles, limpiando los vidrios de los carros y todo, puede haber un niño que puede ser el presidente de Nicaragua, pues yo creo que ellos tienen que tener un chance en la vida. Y algo que se está dando en todos los países, pues, pobres, es que están llegando mucha gente que tienen dinero a tratar de comprar todas las playas y después ellos venden como hacen un negocio de bienes raíces y comienzan a vender lotes y lotes y también eso me da mucha tristeza. En Nicaragua ahora uno no puede decir de que va a trabajar y a ahorrar para ir a determinado país. Yo no puedo estar ahorrando dinero y que mi familia esté aguantando hambre, aunque uno tiene los deseos y uno quisiera muchísimo ir a conocer, pero uno no puede. Creo que no me gustaría quedarme en otro país porque amo a mi país, amo a Nicaragua y amo a todo Centroamérica.
We got into Costa Rica, we made it, we're here.
Although literally impossible, Scott wanted to bypass Costa Rica entirely, and I wasn't opposed to the idea.
Costa Rica was the ending point to our journey in 1999 and the place where Zach and I parted ways. I had stayed there for a year, and after having problems with a corrupt customs agent, ended up having to sneak my car out of the country.
Costa Rica is beautiful and rich in culture, but unfortunately, I feel an animosity from the Ticos, and I can't blame them. Like Nicaragua, their country has been bought up and invaded by gringos.
For us, it felt like everyone was on the take, tourists and Ticos alike. Sure enough, on our third day back in the country, we woke up and something felt wrong. We'd been robbed.
We're in Costa Rica. I'm ready to get out of here. I'm calling it more a Costa ripoff. The waves were tiny and packed with tourists learning how to surf. I got 2 surfboards stolen. Scott and I were at each other's throats. I was over it. Adios, Costa Rica. Bienvenidos a Panamá.
Central America was coming to an end. We crossed our 6th border in just a couple of weeks. For us, Panama was unexplored territory and also the launching point to South America, where we intended to get, hopefully with our vehicle.
Shipping the car turned out to be super stressful. I spent hours on the phone talking to different companies, trying to get a price and figure out whether or not they were going to rip us off. That's a container, it's $1,100.
Our saving grace came rather unexpectedly in the form of a political artist named Shiki. She turned out to be super Shiki as she helped us ship our car. Shiki never seemed to sleep, powered by coffee, art, cigarettes, and gum. She showed us the side to Panama only a true Panamanian could.
Mi nombre es Janetcita y vivo en Panamá. La vida aquí es tranquila, barata y está lleno de colores.
Voy a dar una cooperación, señor. No sean malos. Para la leche y los pampers de mi baby.
¿Para la leche y los pampers? ¿Cuántos hijos tienes?
1.
¿Uno nada más?
Y falta la leche. Ahora mismo están manteniéndose con agua.
Mi pasión es vivir. Vivir, vivir, vivir. Porque nos podemos morir así. Diseñar me hace muy, muy, muy feliz. Porque no me veo a mí como que yo estoy diseñando, sino yo veo como si fuera otra persona. Porque ni yo sé a veces qué yo misma puedo hacer. Entonces siempre estoy curiosa de ver qué va a pasar en el próximo capítulo. Y todo lo que yo diseño en realidad está pasando, porque esa es mi realidad. Este es Oh My Dad.
Oh my dad, hola.
El 20 de diciembre de 1989, el gobierno de Estados Unidos invadió la ciudad de Panamá con el pretexto de sacar a Noriega, a una sola persona de todo el país, y destruyeron la ciudad. Y eso casi nadie lo sabe en Estados Unidos. Y ustedes no lo tienen que saber. Si me está viendo ahora un americano, ustedes no lo tienen que saber, porque ese es lo que pretende el país, Estados Unidos. Él pretende que ustedes nunca se enteren de eso. ¿Ve? Así que lo han hecho muy bien, han escondido muy bien el secreto. Así como han hecho injusticias con Panamá, como han hecho injusticias con muchos otros países débiles. Y ese fue el día que cambió la vida para mucha gente. Cuando regresé a Panamá de nuevo, cumplí 14 años y empecé a trabajar. Bueno, yo escribía chistes, protesta social, como bien sarcástico, humor bien crudo, de todo el gobierno. Ese era el medio con que yo me podía expresar y ganar dinero. Pero gracias a Dios siempre fui bien creativa, ¿ves? Y eso me ayudó, o sea, la invasión me ayudó a mí en realidad a desarrollar mi creatividad.
Entonces, como ellos vinieron en Navidad, cuando se apareció el gringo en la casa de la Yola, la mamá dije, ¡güey! Justo lo que yo pedí para Navidad, un gringo, mi green card.
El viajar me ha enseñado sobre mí. No necesitas nada para ser feliz, solo te necesitas llevar a ti. Siempre es bueno viajar con uno nunca está solo. Y cada vez que yo me fui solita al cine, no, te vas contigo. Yo siempre estoy conmigo, yo me caigo bien. Hay veces que peleamos, pero yo me caigo bien.
We entered South America by air, as our goal was not to conquer the Great Divide by machine, but simply move on down the road.
Landing in Quito was one of the most spectacular sights I've ever seen. The plane drops down between these snow-covered peaks that seem as though you could reach out and touch. To make up for lost time, we shipped the car to Ecuador and completely bypassed Colombia. I'm glad to have moved on to the new frontier of South America.
We headed directly to Esmeraldas by bus from Quito, where we hoped to reunite with our Land Cruiser. Our shipper in Panama had promised a trouble-free entrance into South America. Everything seemed to be going great. Our car had made it. The process seemed painless until we were asked to present a carnet, a passport for the car that we didn't have. Huh?
Good morning. We're currently waiting for customs so that we can get our car into Ecuador. 2 weeks in customs and a $2,500 personal check written to ensure we wouldn't sell the vehicle while in the country, and finally they let us in. We loaded up our gear and hightailed it to the border to cancel the check.
Aside from all the hassles getting the car into the country, our time spent in Esmeraldas actually turned out to be pretty good. We met 2 Ecuadorian kids who shared their surfboards and took us surfing, and eventually drove with us halfway to Lima. Meet los chavalitos, Carlitos y Watusa.
Zack Cock. Hola, soy Carlos Eduardo Mera. Mi nombre es Juan Eduardo Ramírez, tengo 21 años y vivo en la ciudad de Esmeraldas. La vida en Esmeraldas es algo dura, existe mucha pobreza. Hay muchos problemas con la corrupción, hay mucha contaminación de refinería. Pero es una ciudad que está saliendo adelante. El surf en Esmeraldas es un deporte nuevo, tiene unos 10 o más de años, pero era un nivel demasiado bajo. Más practican los que tenían más o menos dinero. Surfean bastante, pero no hay muy nivel. Por el momento, mi inspiración, un proyecto que tengo en el futuro es conocer otros países, conocer otros lugares, ver otras culturas, otra gente, aprender algo nuevo. Y conocer más a fondo lo que es toda la costa y conocer nuevos surfistas. El primer problema del mundo que hay es la guerra. La gente no comprende que con violencia no llega a nada. Pero y el segundo es una contaminación muy alta. Puede haber muchos fenómenos naturales y destruir más que una guerra. La gente no comprende mucho lo que debe hacer por su país. Más vale por el mundo. En el mundo no debería existir ni americanos, ni europeos, ni nada, ni africanos. Todos tenemos que ser iguales. Todos somos una raza misma, porque el rato que nosotros nos fallecemos, tenemos todo por adentro igual. Dice americanos para nosotros. Americanos es un continente nomás, nada más.
With our new Ecuadorian friends packed into the back of the cruiser, we headed out from Esmeraldas.
We're in the southern hemisphere now, past the equator.
And finally into the country of Peru. 20 kilometers from the Peruvian border, it's raining hard, and we're surrounded by jungle and banana plantations. We cross into Peru and the train shifts from jungle to desert in literally a matter of 40 kilometers. The climate turns from hot and humid to hotter and dry. The sun blazes and vegetation suddenly stops. There are no signs of life, other than the passing town or the passing Peruvian.
We leave the Chavalitos in some dusty town 400 kilometers from the border of Ecuador, where they wait for a bus to take them home. This is the furthest they have ever been from Esmeraldas. We continued south to Lima to rendezvous with a friend named Ziad, who has come to join us to surf in southern Peru and northern Chile.
Ziad has this weird knack for finding good surf. The waves have been tiny since Panama, and like clockwork, he shows up and all of a sudden the waves are pumping. He also brings memories of home, and now, deep in the desert, I find myself thinking more and more of what awaits me upon my return. It's becoming harder to focus on the moment as we close in on the end of the journey.
Moving on into Chile, we were closing in on our final destination of the Tierra del Fuego, but we still had to cross the Atacama Desert. No recorded rainfall, no shade, it's windy, dusty, and 200 kilometers between gas stations. It's the last place on earth you'd want your car to break down. The cruiser had been a champ, not one major problem since leaving Alaska. The mechanic who changed our oil in Anchorage laughed when we told him we were going to Seattle. If only he could see us now, in Chile.
We'd prepared well for the trip, hoping that it would carry us through the most desolate spots, and if we did have car trouble, it would happen somewhere it could be dealt with. It must have been our destiny that the car would break down in the worst imaginable place.
Transmission's out of oil, because we blew a seal, and we're in the middle of nowhere, which translates to 180 kilometers from the nearest town.
Third stop has concluded that the bolt has come out of the transmission housing, which has enabled oil to leak out at a rapid pace. And every 100 kilometers we need to stop and refill with oil that just keeps going out. George Bush would be proud. But no, we're going to plug the hole with the bolt and no longer leak oil.
How is that bolt gonna fit?
Oh, it's not. The bolt is too small.
Now what's happening?
Now we're fixing the differential.
Third day under the car.
How are you feeling?
I feel dirty.
I'm over it. Yesterday the transmission started spewing oil. We can't pump it in as fast as it leaks out. This morning, the power steering went out. The rusted out floorboards pump in dust faster than it escapes through the windows. The cruiser is literally disintegrating. Ziad's got to get on a plane in Santiago in 2 weeks, and if we even make it that far, I'm close to throwing in the towel and going home with him. This is brutal.
For a moment, it seemed like the best solution was to sell our Land Cruiser and hop on a nice air-conditioned bus to Santiago and go home.
So we were driving the other day and the car broke down. We got a hole in the transmission. At the same time, the nut that holds the differential together fell off, so the differential fell apart. We got the differential back together and plugged the whole transmission, glued a bolt in there, and strapped it on with the NRS strap. Now we're driving down the road again.
Our luck was finally turning. With a little love, the Land Cruiser made it to Santiago, where we dropped off Ziad, and pushed south, finding new surf spots around every corner. In southern Chile, I imagined that I was driving the coast of California, but 100 years ago and in reverse. It's a magical feeling to be driving down a nameless road you've never been on, looking out the window, watching people in towns and different landscapes go by, trying to turn a split second into a lifetime.
As the terrain became more temperate and mountainous, the surfing leg of our journey came to an end. In Puerto Montt, the coastal road disappears and we headed inland towards our objective of the Tierra del Fuego, but not before stopping off to connect with Doug Tompkins. Don't let his mild manner fool you. Tompkins is a revolutionary, ski racer, pioneer free climber, world-class mountaineer, pilot, co-founder of Esprit de Corps, and founder of the North Face, companies that revolutionize the clothing industry. A successful risk taker with his latest risk, creating what may be the largest ecological preserve in southern Chile. Loved and hated, controversial to say the least, here's Doug Tompkins.
Did you get that okay?
I got that, yeah.
All right. I'm Doug Tompkins. I'm living in the province of Palena in South Chile. I've been in business for many years. I realized that this was not what I wanted to do anymore. So I sold my business and I came to Argentina and Chile. Over the years, of course, I got involved in our conservation and environmental projects, got more involved, and I just became wedded to the place and bought a large amount of land, close to the size of the Yosemite National Park, to look after things such as restoration, reforestation.
Todo esto es parte del proyecto Alerce 3000. ¿Por qué Alerce 3000? Porque los que plantemos en este milenio, en el 2000, los va a disfrutar la gente que vive en el año 3000.
My so-called environmental roots started when I started rock climbing at about 12 years old. At that time, of course, I had no sense of an environmental crisis or what environmentalism was, or that there was activism, there was a way to resist these things. It was tied in with my love for the outdoors and the wilderness areas and so forth that were being reduced by logging and damming of wild rivers. And that just was my gateway to become a serious, I consider myself a serious activist, because that's what I'm doing 100% of the time. And I think travel has taught me that nothing would be better if everybody stayed home and looked after their own watersheds in their own backyards. Of course, we're in a globalized world consciousness at the moment where everything seems to be better over there, far away. So I'm day by day further convinced of the importance to stay home and to be fixed in a place. You have a chance for true contentment. I think the biggest and most profound sadness there is an understanding of the implications of the biodiversity crisis, that is the extinction crisis that's caused by human beings. We're kind of fabricating our own casket in space here as we eat up the earth day by day, piece by piece. And it's a tremendously complex question of how we can come to a truly biologically sustainable planetary economy. And I don't pretend to have the answers to that, but I think that we do have some fairly good suggestions. What can we be doing to be less unsustainable? And I look around in my own life. I try to make economic decisions based on handmade local products that we need for our daily life. All of these things, if we all did these things, we'd have a different kind of economy and we'd have a different kind of world. And if you look around your life and see what it is that you can make by hand that's not made by giant transnational corporations making commodities in industrial processes and so forth, you can do a lot towards reducing the impact and footprint of the global economy on nature. I'm not a big patriot, although that pains some of my friends, and I'm sure it pains the patriotic strain in many Americans. But the patriots are not looking at after the fatherland or the patrimony of the country. They're out there bleeding it for everything they can get. I don't think just in those terms, although I think that it's good to have a place and want to defend the place. But you should defend the place, and that there should be a redefinition of patriotism, and that is that you should look after and care for the well-being of the fatherland. I just feel like I should be a patriot to ideas.
Doug had found his home, and leaving there, we began to see the end of our trip and the beginning of our journey home. At this point, we were on autopilot, headed towards Ushuaia, a place we had picked out on the map so long ago.
So close, we started to question why we were so intent on going to Ushuaia. Just to get there and turn around? Our goal was to go from Alaska to Argentina, or was that just the excuse for everything in between? There we were, racing to get to this symbolic finish line.
For 8 months, we couldn't stop thinking about how it would feel to finally conquer this inconceivable goal of traveling from one end of the Americas to the other. And now, so close to Ushuaia, we couldn't stop thinking about how those 8 months had flown by.
This whole thing started as just an idea of what it might be like, and now it was ending. It all seemed to have gone by so fast, yet the road, the vehicle, and our daily routine felt like all we knew.
Ironically, it took 20,000 miles to realize that our trip wasn't about whether or not we actually made it, but about the people we had met along the way.
I'm feeling comfortable with the idea of being in a stable place, and looking forward to summer in New Mexico, making a garden, working on my little house, enjoying a morning and a cup of coffee on the porch with Erin. It'll feel good to just go home and stay there a while.
And just like that, we made it. No finish line, no party, just a big bottle of wine and a beautiful fall evening as far south as we'd ever been in the Americas.
Hey Zach, should we drive back? We could do the East Coast up to Newfoundland.
But what about Norway to South Africa? That'd be sick.
I hear there might be good waves in Greenland. There's gotta be rock there.
I don't think we can drive there, though. How about circumnavigating Australia?
We can't drive there either. But maybe we could build a car that converts into a boat and drive it around the world.
Ooh, I'm ready. Let's go.
Voy a explicarte cómo se debe de bailar. Se busca una compañera que se quiera zarandear, que sea gorda, que sea flaca, eso no debe importar. Con los brazos como remo, pa' adelante y para atrás. Y los pies raspando el suelo van haciendo chiquicha. Y los pies raspando el suelo van haciendo chiquicha. Chiqui, 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 chiquicha. Revelación. Agárrate fuerte, mamacita. Con permiso.
Mi barca quedó atrapada en tu playa de sueños. Luego me ofreciste ser de tu paisaje dueño. Las noches han sido hermosas, los días felices. El sol caribeño me ha borrado cicatrices. Bendición ha sido estar preso en la blanca espuma de tu amor en esta playa de sol y de luna. ¿Qué más puede pedir este pobre marinero que no se quiere ir porque el corazón entero lo tiene en esta playa y lo llama una mujer diciéndole no te vayas, ven y déjate querer? ¿Qué más puede pedir este pobre marinero que no se quiere ir porque el corazón